How did you handle town hall meetings when Tea Partiers interrupted the town hall meetings? With the same dismissiveness? Or did you handle it with the sense that, what's going on here, these angry people? Who are these angry people?
Well, coverage of that was about it being organized.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, that is, your coverage of it was to delegitimize it. That it was actually not real, it was AstroTurf.
No, actually no. It was, I think my approach to that was to say this is being used as a widespread political tactic by people with a lot of money and a lot of stake in the policy issues.
Right.
And they're sort of deploying direction activists in a way that we haven't seen before.
Would you say that the spirit of the block of coverage on MSNBC was as dismissive of the woman who stands says Bush is a war criminal? Do you think MSNBC has changed over the last 5 years? You know, there is a genetic link between Keith. Keith was the first, and it was a voice like in the wilderness. People were like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you can say that, you know. And then you came on and Ed, and again, now I'm talking about climate as opposed to weather. But
yeah,
it does create a linkage that I think it would be hard for you to say, like, geez, I don't know if we're really doing that.
We already showed you all Jon Stewart setting Rachel Maddow on fire, Joe Scarborough and Nicole Wallace over what he bluntly described as Trump fanaticism. And like they were allergic to self-awareness, they doubled down without pausing to think or retreat. And guess who showed up for yet another harsh reality check just when you thought things couldn't get any messier?
Bought into that the conflict in this is left and right. Liberal, conservative, red, blue. And all the news networks have bought into that. CNN sort of started it. They had this idea that, you know, the fight in Washington is Republicans and Democrats. So why don't we isolate that and we'll stand back here and that's, you know, Democrats and Republicans will go at it. Red and blue staters will go at it. And what it does is it amplifies a division that I actually don't think is the right fight. But if what you're asking is, do I believe that? What he's saying, that's what I believe.
Once again, Jon Stewart. Now, don't misunderstand. This is not a brand new clip. It dates back to Jon's heyday as a loud, liberal, and arrogant voice. He served as the face of progressive movements. However, even he saw the chaos on CNN and MSNBC. Every night, Maddow was occupied with serving fire and fury. The truth was clocked by Stewart. These channels weren't bridging the gap. It was becoming worse because of them. They chose turmoil above mutual understanding, constantly inciting their supporters' ire, biased narratives, and feel-good anger. The same media that once had the ability to unite people. These days, it's simply one more tool in the political conflict. What do you see when you turn on the news today? The argument between the two Americas is over. Trust was broken. Everyone is too preoccupied with yelling into echo chambers to listen to one another. To be honest, I completely understand Stewart's point of view. By calling names and excluding those who disagree, far too many Democrats these days avoid having meaningful conversations. They seem to attack you with names and guilt rather than facts the moment anything makes them flinch. Discourse is not that. It's deflection. The objective should be dialogue rather than suppression when the difficult truth is revealed. Rather, it's all about preserving the story, even if it means putting individuals out of business. Jon was the first to see it, and it's now happening all over. Crazy times.
Do believe is both sides have their way of shut down debate. And the news networks have allowed these two sides to become the fight in the country. And I think the fight in the country is corruption versus not corruption. Extremists versus regular. Do you understand what I'm saying?
What's the lefty way of shutting down? Well, I mean,
Okay,
yeah.
You've said Bush war criminal. Now that may be technically true. In my world, war criminal is Pol Pot or the Nook trials.
Or Harry
It's not
Truman,
saying
but
he's,
then you took that back. Yeah.
And I did for good reason, because I don't think he was. I think that, you know, again, we have to define our... But I think that's such an incendiary charge that when you put it into conversation as, well, technically he is, that may be right, but it feels like a conversation stopper, not a conversation.
Real dialogue ends the moment someone dares to challenge America's position in the Middle East. Facts won't be provided, won't be disputed. You will be bombarded with taunts and arrogant arrogance. Say whatever you want about Trump's foreign policy, immigration, economics, or boom, and the labels will follow. Hitler, narcissistic, racist, and unable to ask questions or engage in conversation. The goal is not to disprove you. The goal is to silence you. Just a hasty closure intended to embarrass and obliterate, with no room for complexity or disagreement. And let's face it, it is not just bothersome but also harmful. When people are too afraid to speak out for fear of being crucified, a true democracy cannot exist. Rachel Maddow is cunning with it, too. One moment, she's supporting these so-called woke warriors who yell in people's faces, storm town halls, and call it justice. Without someone shouting them down in the name of action, ordinary people can't even make it through a meeting. Maddow supports it as if it were a courageous stance.
Follow your logic, and I believe what you're saying up until a point. And the point,
I'm glad he's following.
No, I do follow your logic. But it's
right.
in the people interrupting meetings and interrupting rallies are direct action activists who are doing stuff to be purposely disruptive and a pain in order to sort of throw a wrench in the works.
Right.
And then on the other side,
so you're saying that it's really nothing.
Well, it's not that it's nothing. It's just not being done with the same level of authority as it is.
We didn't just observe whose side she was supporting 2 seconds ago, for example. It's not only whirling, it's avoiding responsibility. It's acting as if your side is infallible, even when the evidence is clearly visible. The level of hypocrisy is astounding. It's not only indolence, it's planned, the kind of action that reeks of prejudice and outright dishonesty. Indeed, this kind of polished rhetoric is what keeps the nation divided rather than bringing about any real change. Do you recall Joe Scarborough's attempt to do the same thing to Bill Maher? Is this the standard training method at MSNBC? You must now inquire whether they get a script over there. For Joe Scarborough and Rachel Maddow may as well be reading from the same page. However, if someone on the right does anything even somewhat dubious, it becomes breaking news, receives extensive attention.
It's both sides, isn't it? Well, there is no doubt. There's some disinformation from the left. Comparing it to what Donald Trump spews out every week, comparing it to what Elon Musk is spewing out on X, there's no...
You were like, how can you, Mr. False Equivalent? It's like, no, Joe, come on. I thought you were Joe Scarborough. There's crazy.
And is portrayed as if it were the end of the world. All of a sudden, they're yelling, analyzing, and spinning as if it were their Super Bowl. There is a constant attempt to defend their crew and disparage the others. There is no fair shake or genuine comparison. That calm assurance that you always had is gone. She begins to move in her chair as if the heat had finally reached her. She could sense the genuine smoke that Stewart brought. Now, if you're wondering why this is so important, allow me to quickly explain. Stewart asks Matt a straightforward inquiry.
Handle town hall meetings when Tea Partiers at the town hall meetings with the same level of dismissiveness? Or did you handle it with the sense that, what's going on here, these angry people? Who are these angry people?
Well, my coverage of that was about it being organized.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, that is, the coverage of it was to delegitimize it. That it was actually not real, it was AstroTurf.
No, actually no. I think my approach to that was to say this is being used as a widespread political tactic by people with a lot of money and stake in the policy issues, and they're sort of deploying direct action activism in a way that we haven't seen before.
Would you say that the general spirit of the block of coverage on MSNBC is as dismissive of the woman who stands up and says Bush is a war criminal, or the people at the town hall? Do you think they were viewed through the same prism?
I think that they're viewed through an appropriately proportional prism. Because Code Pink is like 12 ladies, and I think that literally Indiana says they identify with the Tea Party. And so...
And they say they identify with the Tea Party. What does that mean? Yeah. Identify how? Identify with the idea that they like smaller government?
Why did MSNBC highlight a protester who yelled, "War criminal," throughout George W. Bush's address nonstop but remaining radio silence when Tea Party members do the same at Democratic events? He's not only discussing airtime, he's making the game public. There is more than one narrative here. Stewart is drawing attention to a much more significant problem: prejudice in the media. How indignation is completely disregarded or, worse, ridiculed when it doesn't fit the narrative, yet it is treated like gold when it does. Selective attention like that isn't innocuous. People are divided by it. It conveys the idea that one side's anger is justified while the other is insane. The media isn't simply reporting the news when they play that game.
The argument is, you do exactly what Fox do and you're as bad as Fox. anybody who has watched our show in any measure would understand the special place in our hearts.
Yeah.
So again, it feels to me like false equivalence sounds like something that you're doing. We have a tendency to grant amnesty to people that we agree with, and to...
They are in charge of how individuals see the world. Jon isn't going to put up with it either. He's revealing that these networks do more than only reflect divide. These days, the double standard isn't even subtle. Republicans repeatedly propose measures that are almost exactly the same as those promoted by Democrats. Nevertheless, they are chastised for it. Consider reforming the criminal justice system. What did Trump get when he signed the First Step Act, a bipartisan measure to strengthen rehabilitation programs and lower jail sentences? Crickets. A courteous shrug, maybe. Obama, meanwhile, received a standing ovation for identical actions. Not to mention border security. Biden, Obama, and Hillary Clinton have all previously advocated for more robust borders and physical barriers. However, Trump turned into a monster the moment he said the exact same thing.
People on the right who have made this decision that they'll only talk to media who agrees with them.
That's their greatest triumph.
Yeah. And that's new. I think they're only able to do that now because the conservative media is big enough that they can still get their voice out.
You know, I don't think that's a new concept. I don't think that's a Republican or right-wing concept. I think they've executed it pretty well. I'd say Bill Clinton pretty good at delegitimizing. The great thing that they've done, I think the brilliance of Fox is they delegitimized the idea of editorial authority while exercising incredible editorial authority.
Right.
Which is, it's amazing. And they also have the game that they're all out to get us. So any criticism of them can be filtered through the idea that it's persecution. It's not, this isn't criticism.
It is hailed as audacious and progressive if it is a Democrat. It becomes hazardous, contentious, or even un-American if it's a Republican. That prejudice is more than simply a pain. It is setting the tone for the whole nation. The truth is broken, not merely distorted, by this kind of biased narrative. It strengthens the exact division the media claims to be concerned about, encourages tribal thinking, and stifles genuine discourse. However, what happens if Maddow attempts to change the course of events quickly? Let's examine. It was visible to you. Perhaps anxious for Jon Stewart to take a heavy swing at Fox News, Maddow was waiting. Isn't that standard procedure? It was evident in her face. She was given a reality check instead of the tag team moment she was hoping for. Stewart then delivered one more strike to her, a takedown so precise that there was no opportunity for deflection. It's time to roll that clip.
MSNBC has changed over the last 5 years. You know, there is a linkage between Keith. Keith was a voice like in the wilderness. People were like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my, you can say that, you know. And then you came on, and Ed, and again, now I'm talking about climate as opposed to weather. But
yeah,
it does create a linkage that I think it would be hard for you to say, like, geez, if we're really doing that, then what are you doing?
I think what happens is that the media, having been derided for so long as being biased and being very afraid of that charge,
right.
When Keith spoke, he essentially came out of the closet as a liberal, and nothing bad happened. It was okay. He still agreed, if anything. And so I think it gave network executives some to say, okay, people who are liberals can be on TV as they call themselves liberals.
Yeah, I think that.
And then they hire the
network
rest of them.
executives work on courage is. I think what they did is they went, why is Fox News kicking our asses? We need to fight this with.
The last strike, delivered by Jon Stewart, was devastating. Maddow had just asserted with pride that MSNBC allowed its hosts to freely voice their political opinions, as if it were a daring declaration of free speech. At first glance, it seems honorable, genuine, and even somewhat powerful. Stewart, nevertheless, was not fooled by that slick pitch. He tore that assertion apart with cool accuracy. He didn't shout or rise up. He just presented the facts in a clear and concise manner. Matt was boasting about that independence. It had nothing to do with promoting critical thinking or journalistic courage. It has to do with creating a weapon. Independent minds were not wanted by MSNBC. They planned to retaliate against Fox News with loud shouts. Stewart did not fall for it. Hit the like button. Subscribe for more uncensored perspectives, and leave a comment if this breakdown struck a chord with you and caused you to reconsider what you're being fed. Stay tuned, because we have a lot more truth bombs in store for you.